When we think about character, it's easy to confuse it with charm, success, or how someone presents themselves in front of others. But character isn't about polished appearances. It's revealed in the small, ordinary, sometimes inconvenient moments of life. If you want to truly see someone's soul, you don't need to analyze their entire history. You only need to notice 5 simple things. These 5 truths will tell you far more than any speech, resume, or performance ever could. If you really want to know someone's heart, don't look at how they treat their boss, their friends, or the people who can advance their career. Look instead at how they treat the people who hold no power in their world. The waiter at the restaurant, the security guard at the gate, the janitor sweeping the floor late at night. It's in these moments when there's no spotlight and no reward that true character rises or crumbles, because anyone can put on kindness when it benefits them. Anyone can smile at the people who sign their paycheck. But the real test of integrity is whether that kindness is consistent when the person in front of them offers nothing in return. Think about it. Do they look the server in the eyes and say thank you? Or do they act as though that person doesn't exist? Do they treat the delivery driver as human or simply as a function? These tiny interactions, the ones most people rush past, are the loudest clues about a person's soul. I've learned that people who carry real compassion don't have 2 versions of themselves. They don't save kindness for the important people. Their respect is woven into the fabric of who they are. It shows up everywhere with everyone. So if you're wondering about someone's true character, watch them in the ordinary, unseen exchanges. The way they treat the people who cannot benefit them will always tell you the truth. Disappointment is one of life's most honest teachers. It shows up when things don't go as planned, when expectations collapse, when the universe says not yet or not this way. And frustration, that's the raw, unpolished reaction that follows. This is where you really see someone's true character, not when everything is easy, but when everything falls apart. Anyone can appear composed when life is smooth, when the sun is shining, and every plan clicks into place. But character is not proven in comfort, it's proven in chaos. Watch how a person reacts when the flight gets delayed, when the deal falls through, when someone tells them no. Do they lash out, lose their patience, and demand control, or do they take a breath, step back, and look for perspective? Frustration is like a magnifying glass. It doesn't create who someone is, it simply enlarges what's already there. If kindness lives in them, you'll see patience even in their irritation. If entitlement rules them, you'll see cruelty when their will is challenged. I remember once sitting in a crowded cafe when the power went out. People groaned, rolled their eyes, some slammed their cups down. And then in the corner, one woman started softly laughing, joking with the staff, reassuring them, it's not your fault. She couldn't control the blackout, but she could control her response. And in that small moment, you could feel her character shine brighter than the lights that had gone out. That's the thing. Disappointment and frustration strip away the mask. They reveal whether someone chooses grace or grievance, whether they lean into patience or explode with blame. So if you want to see the depth of someone's character, don't just watch how they celebrate victory. Watch how they carry themselves when things break, delay, or disappear. Because how they handle the storm tells you whether you can trust them to walk with you when the road gets rough. One of the clearest windows into a person's character is how they talk about others when those people are not in the room. It's easy to be polite face-to-face, to smile and nod, to play the role of kind when the person is present. But the real test is what happens when the door closes, when the conversation shifts, when there's no accountability for their words. If someone constantly gossips, criticizes, or tears others down in private, it reveals something much deeper than idle chatter. It shows envy, insecurity, and a hunger to elevate themselves by shrinking others. And here's the hard truth. If they do it with others, they will eventually do it with you. I once worked with someone who seemed warm and encouraging in meetings. They complimented people to their faces, praised their efforts, and seemed supportive. But the moment the meeting ended, their tone shifted. They mocked the very same people they had just applauded. That pattern taught me something important. Words spoken behind closed doors carry more truth than the ones polished for public ears. But here's the opposite picture. When someone chooses fairness, even when no one is listening, that's integrity. When they say, I may not agree with them, but they're doing their best. Or when they defend someone's reputation instead of shredding it, those small choices reveal the roots of honor. Character isn't just about how we treat people face to face. It's about whether our words match our values when no one is watching. Gossip is easy. It requires no courage, no discipline. But speaking with kindness in the absence of an audience, that's rare. That's character. So if you want to know who someone truly is, listen carefully when the conversation turns to others who aren't there. Do they protect dignity or do they destroy it? The way they hold another person's reputation in their hands is exactly how they will hold yours. Character is not built on the stage, under the applause, or in the spotlight. Those are moments of performance, moments where people can carefully craft how they appear. True character is revealed in the quiet, ordinary spaces of life, the ones with no audience, no recognition, no reward. Think about it. Anyone can donate when their name will be printed on a plaque. Anyone can volunteer when cameras are rolling. But the real question is, who are they when no one's watching? Do they return the shopping cart in the rain when there's no one around to notice? Do they keep their word even when the promise was small and nobody would ever know if they broke it? Do they show kindness in private, not just when it earns them admiration? I once knew a man who gave generously to charities, but he did it quietly, without his name attached. He never announced it, never posted about it, never looked for acknowledgement. His kindness lived in silence, and that's what made it powerful. It wasn't about reputation, it was about integrity. Contrast that with people who thrive only in the spotlight. They talk about values when the microphone is on, but forget those values in the silence of everyday life. Their kindness is conditional, their honesty is situational, their generosity is staged. That isn't character, that's theater. The truth is, silence strips away performance. It shows whether goodness is woven into someone's being or whether it's a mask they put on only when the lights are shining. Character is not how you act in front of a crowd. It's how you act when only your conscience is watching. When we talk about character, we often focus on how people treat others. But there's another hidden dimension that reveals just as much how they treat themselves. Because the relationship a person has with their own heart, their own failures, and their own humanity always spills over into the way they relate to others. If someone is constantly harsh with themselves, if they tear themselves down with shame, criticize every mistake, and show no grace to all. One of the greatest illusions about character is believing it can be measured in a single act. We often get swept up in grand gestures, one big donation, one powerful speech, one impressive moment of kindness. But here's the truth. Character is never about one shining moment. It's about the pattern. It's about consistency over time. Anyone can be kind once. Anyone can show patience for a single day. Anyone can tell the truth when it's easy. But the real question is, do they keep showing up the same way again and again, even when nobody's keeping score? That's what reveals who they truly are. Think about trust. Trust doesn't come from one dramatic promise. It's built brick by brick through repeated actions that align with words. If someone is dependable only sometimes, if their honesty only shows up when it benefits them, then what you're seeing is not character, it's convenience. I once knew a colleague who was brilliant at first impressions. In the beginning, he was reliable, enthusiastic, full of energy, but over time, the cracks began to show. Deadlines were missed, Promises were forgotten. His energy was real, but his consistency was missing. And without consistency, there's no foundation for trust. Now contrast that with the quiet people who don't seek applause but show up steadily. The friend who checks in every week. The coworker who always does what they said they would do. The parent who keeps their word even in small things. These aren't headline moments, but they're the threads that weave a character you can trust. Consistency is where integrity lives. It's not glamorous, it's not dramatic, and it doesn't always get noticed right away. But over the years, it becomes undeniable. True character is not a highlight reel, it's a daily rhythm. If you really want to see the truth of someone's character, give them power, not just political power or a big promo. Sometimes it's as simple as a position of authority, a title, or even the smallest advantage over another person, because power doesn't change people, it unmasks them. It takes off the disguise they wear in everyday life and shows what's really underneath. Here's why. When someone has no power, they have to be careful. They have to consider others, compromise, and often act humble just to survive. But the moment they gain control, even in small ways, you'll see whether that humility was genuine or simply a strategy. I once knew a manager who was warm and approachable when they were just part of the team. But the day they got promoted, everything shifted. Suddenly, they stopped listening. They dismissed ideas. They used their authority not to empower, but to intimidate. What changed? Nothing. That power didn't corrupt them. It simply revealed the arrogance that was already there. Now compare that to a different leader I once admired deeply. When she got promoted, instead of pulling away, she leaned in closer. She used her position to advocate for others, to mentor, to lift people up. She understood something vital. Real power is not about control, it's about stewardship. It's about asking, how can I use what I've been given to make others stronger, safer, more valued? The truth is, the way someone handles power shows you whether they are ruled by ego or guided by responsibility. Do they use authority to dominate or to serve? Do they see power as a tool to build walls or as a bridge to lift others across? And here's the part many people miss. You don't need to wait until someone is a CEO or a politician to test this. Look at how they treat a team when they're the captain. Look at how they manage resources when they're in charge. Even in the smallest situations like leading a project or deciding who gets the last piece of cake, power reveals the soul, one of T. Clearest mirrors of character is how a person relates to the truth. Not the easy truths, the ones that make them look good, the ones that earn applause, but the hard truths, the ones that cost them some. So instead they bend reality just a little at first. An excuse here, an exaggeration there, a half-truth spoken to save face. But here's the danger. Once a person learns to abandon truth when it's hard, it becomes a pattern. And that pattern always, always erodes trust. I once watched a colleague take responsibility for a mistake in front of an entire room. It wasn't easy. It cost them credibility in that moment. But something powerful happened. People leaned in. They trusted them more because honesty carries weight. It's imperfect, but it's real, and people can feel real. Now think about the opposite. The people who never admit fault. They always have a story, always someone else to blame, always a reason that protects their image. At first it sounds convincing, but over time you start to notice the cracks. The truth, no matter how deeply buried, has a way of rising to the surface. And when it does, it shows you who you were dealing with all along. Here's the thing. Honesty isn't just about facts, it's about alignment. It's about whether a person's words, actions, and values stand together or fall apart. A dishonest person lives in fragments, an honest person lives in whole.